You know, some people will not argue with you when you talk about unemployment, because we do know that it has been on the rise for some time now, and it seems it's been at an all-time high. But then the question is, in terms of the products and the produce that you've just mentioned, for instance, sugar, we do know that there's been an increase in the production of sugar and an increase in the patronage of locally produced sugar. And we also know that rice is also being, you know, we're almost getting self-sufficient, if we're to go with the words of the Minister of Agriculture, who says that we've reduced drastically our importation of rice. Aren't this the kinds of things, the little progresses that we ought to be celebrating?
See, you see, the problem that we have in the country is far bigger than trying to polish issues. Now, for example, there is nothing wrong in telling us specifically the volume and quantum of rice that came into this country by year 2017. And what level of employment has it generated? And how do you relate that to the duty that is imposed on rice that has a $40 freight cost per metric ton in relation to the locally produced rice without a corresponding reduction in price of locally produced rice?
You don't think that the price will drop as time goes on?
Now, when will it drop? Are we paying duty on locally produced rice? Are we paying freight on locally produced rice?
But we must accept that the cost of production is quite high.
Now, what are the indices that make the cost of production to be high in terms of rice local production?
Mr. Iweta,
so just a moment. Are you saying that you do not agree? I mean, because right now, we do know that the cost of production for the local or the average manufacturer, we don't want to talk about the farmer now, because if you're going to finish your rice in terms of milling and things like that, you also need electricity, wouldn't you? There's also the cost of transport to the different markets where this thing will be bought. And we also know that that is quite high in the country. Isn't that right? Are you arguing that, you know, the farmer should be making a loss because we want locally produced rice to be more competitive than the one that is brought into the country?
Now, many years ago, the federal government, through the customs agency, go into the market to exercise what is called price control, such that the government knows the cost of producing a particular item or the cost vis-a-vis duty of an item. So if you are selling in the market, for example, milk that is supposed to be 20 naira, and you are selling it for 40 naira, the customs will go there and confiscate those items. But here we are, the economy is loose without control and without statistics. So how do you plan when you do not have a designed statistic from where you can learn from the past experience to launching into a further progress?
You don't think that a recent meeting, was it a committee meeting now held by the federal government, looking at the price of food, they were wondering why is it that the price of food is expensive across the country, in spite of the fact that there seems to be food in abundance in the places where it is produced. What they found was that the cost of transport was prohibitive, and they're looking for ways to, you know, handle that. Isn't that something that, you know, isn't that equating with the statistics that you were talking about and the research that ought to be done?
Well, I don't know how reliable that statistics will be made available for investors to look into it and take opportunity of the business that could be made out of that gap, that infrastructure gap that you just mentioned. For example, the quantum of finances that is supposed to be geared towards agriculture is far not considerate to create the meaningful economic growth through agriculture. The few agencies that are targeted towards agricultural emancipation from where we were, is adequate funding through Bank of Agriculture. And that is a far cry. And then you see central bank playing the role of Bank of Agriculture. You see central bank playing the role of commercial banks. You see central bank playing the role of development banks. And so with all of these bottled up activities, there is a confusion. There needs to be harmonization and coherence to positively integrate all of this to ensure that this is the target, this is the volume, because there is no way Nigeria can succeed in agriculture without targeting commercial agriculture. And to do that, you need enough of modern equipment. And for that, what is the level of the foreign exchange that the federal government is giving towards importation of agricultural equipment? Because you are subsidizing petroleum product. You are not indirectly looking for medium to subsidize agriculture to create the needed food security.
Don't they have their import duties and don't they have those waivers for agricultural products, agricultural equipment and inputs that should go into agriculture?
Fine. You see, there are two things involved. The federal government, through central bank intervention, just provided what is called NESF, about 550 billion naira, to support non-oil export. Yes, that's a good direction by the central bank. And by that, at 9% interest rate, the conditions that are attached to some of these intervention funds are such that the commercial banks, who are the operators, are not interested to touch it. Because central bank will put a condition that before you access that fund to give to a commercial business operator, you must provide what is called treasury bills. And the commercial bank will tell you, if I would use my treasury bill to support Ngelari to produce maize at 9%, and you are not giving me a corresponding collateral in cash that will meet that, they will shy away from such funds. And so those funds are always there. And many international development agencies grant funding to Nigerian banks. But because they cannot get the naira base to back the foreign exchange LC opening, the money expires and you don't use it.
Mr. Iweta.